Hey everybody, this is Meyer, and in this video what I'm going to do is talk about the second thing you need to produce music, which is monitor speakers and headphones. So we'll go ahead and talk about what monitor speakers and headphones are, how they're different from the standard consumer speaker systems you can find or buy anywhere, and some tips on purchasing them when you're looking to get into them, because they're very important that you have a good set of monitor speakers or headphones that you can trust when you're doing any mixing or production work. So what are monitor speakers and headphones? Well, the idea when you're producing, monitoring means just to listen. So monitoring speakers are indeed listening speakers. And of course, what you're going to say is, I know, Paul, aren't all speakers designed for listening? Yes and no. Most speaker systems, when you go to the store and try out different speaker systems, when you decide to purchase one, you're going to go with the one that sounds the best. And speaker manufacturers are, reasonably smart people. So they understand that people want the system that's going to sound the best with regard to the reference material that's being played on it. So what they may find is that boosting the high end can add a sense of clarity to their speaker system, or boosting the low end can add like a low bass boost that makes their speaker system sound more expensive or nicer than it actually is. So in an attempt to sound good, is what's happening is it's actually inflating the reference material that's being played, and you're not actually hearing the reference material, I guess, the way it was produced. You're hearing it through the lens of something that's trying to make it sound better. The problem here when you're trying to produce music is different speaker systems are going to boost different frequencies in different areas. So depending on the size of drivers that they use and just kind of how much money they put into the drivers may mean they boost different frequencies than other ones. So the problem is if you're trying to mix on a consumer speaker system or your traditional hi-fi speaker system, you're mixing your song and kind of being lied to that it sounds better than it actually does, because you may be mixing thinking, oh yeah, there's already enough high end here in the track, or there's already enough low end, when in actuality there may not be. Now it's fine, of course, when you're listening, you want to get the system that sounds the best. But when you're producing, what ends up happening is this is basically acting as a yes man. It's basically telling you that your song sounds a lot better than it actually does. On the other hand, monitor speakers and headphones are designed to give as flat a frequency response as possible. So the idea being, you want to make sure that you're not being lied to by your speaker systems and making it sound better than it actually does. So these monitor speakers and headphones, instead of just trying to sound as good as possible, they're designed to try to sound as accurate, or what we call flat, a frequency response, as possible. And as a result, if your music sounds good on a set of monitor speakers and headphones, there's a good chance it would probably sound even better on a good sounding system that's going to boost the parts in your song that are already sounding pretty good. So if you look down here on the bottom, we have this really flat frequency response. This is an actual RTA plot from a set of monitor speakers. And notice how it looked kind of like a tabletop. That's what we mean by a flat frequency response. Whereas this RTA plot here on the right, this is actually an RTA plot from a set of laptop speakers. And if you notice here, the scale on the y-axis actually in dB. So we'll talk about dB a little bit later, but this is in dBu. So this is actually like really boosting the high end and cutting the low end pretty much exponentially due to that logarithmic scale. And then I have a picture of the Yamaha NS10s, which are like probably one of the most famous studio monitors out there. And these got really popular because they sounded absolutely terrible. And you're probably wondering, why are they used in so many studios? Because they sound terrible. With the idea being, if you could get your music to sound good on a pair of Yamaha NS10s, and they're really popular for pop and rock music, if your music sounded good on a pair of Yamaha NS10s, if you could get it to sound good there, it would sound good pretty much anywhere. So some of the most famous speaker systems are ones that are just designed out of the box not to sound super great, but if you can get your music sounding good on them, then they'll sound good everywhere. So if you're looking to buy, let's say, a set of monitor speakers or headphones, what are the things to look for? What do you want to start out with? Well, my recommendation would be to start out with a nice pair of monitor headphones first, something like the ATH M50s, which you can find anywhere under $150 or less. And there are a couple reasons for this. First of all, if you're getting started, you won't need an interface unless, of course, you're trying to record, so you can connect these headphones directly to your computer. You can also use them if you're gaming with your phone, or if you have an iPad or something like that, you can also plug them in there. Of course, if you have an iPhone, you'll need that special dongle and stuff, but it's just a little bit more flexible. And you'll get a better quality sound for the price. And just basically what I mean by that is entry-level monitor headphones you can pay maybe $100 for. Whereas entry-level monitor speakers, you're about to spend $150 each. And your investment's going to go a lot farther with a pair of monitor headphones than they are with monitor speakers. The other thing, too, to consider is if you're buying monitor speakers, your room probably isn't going to be acoustically treated yet. So you can actually negate the benefit of getting monitor speakers if you're using them in an untreated room. And there are lots of guides online about what driver size you want to get given the dimensions of your room, where you should put bass traps, resonators, things like that to get as flat of a frequency response in your room as possible. All these things that make it a little bit more difficult if you're buying monitor speakers. Now, it's not to say monitor speakers are bad. And in fact, the idea when you're producing music, you want to listen to it on as many systems as possible. And that's why a lot of studios will have multiple pairs of monitors in the same studio, so you can actually switch between them and see what it sounds like on all these different sets. And like I said, with the caveat being the cheapest monitor speakers go for anywhere from $100 to $150 per speaker, and you need 2 of them. You'll also generally you'll need an interface if you are going the monitor speakers route, which is of course something you'll eventually get if you're serious about producing. And of course, you'll also eventually need to get a subwoofer as well if you're using monitor speakers. Whereas monitor headphones generally provide decent enough bass response on their own that, there's no real reason to get a subwoofer if you're just using monitor headphones. Whereas if you're getting monitor speakers and you're producing any sort of music that would be played at a club or be played at a situation where there would be a subwoofer there, having a subwoofer will really help extend the low frequency range so you can monitor that low frequency area effectively as well. And I know for myself, using monitor speakers, when I eventually did get a subwoofer, it really helped my mixes sound better and more clean, especially in the low end. So if you are going the monitor speakers route, it's a good choice to eventually get a subwoofer if that's the type of music you're producing. Now, with that being said, most producers, and myself included, prefer to produce with open air monitors or monitor speakers rather than monitor headphones in the end. And there are a couple of reasons for this. One of the big reasons is because when you're listening on monitor headphones, what's going on is the headphones themselves are wrapping around your ears. So you're not getting to hear any of the effects of things like phase cancellation that you would hear in an open air environment. And that's really important because hearing your music in a space, like in a room where it's not just in these cans, can give you an idea of what it would sound like if it's being played, let's say at a concert or a club, and just kind of give it that open air feel. So like I said, most people eventually will graduate to monitor speakers and will want to use them in an open air environment, but usually that happens after they've saved up enough capital to be able to acoustically treat their room at least reasonably and use it in a space that's going to work well. So of course, my recommendation is to start with a good pair of monitor headphones. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the Discord. We're going to be talking a lot about different types of monitor speakers and headphones and what are the current recommendations right now when you're watching this video. So head on over there and participate in the discussion, and I'll see you guys in the next video.